So my first ever client was Rene Rivkin.
Tell me the story.
Okay, so Rene Rivkin, at the time, 20 or so years ago, he was one of the richest men in Australia, always in the news because he had a whole fleet of cars below his office and stockbroker to the Australia's richest people like Kerry Packer.
He's Australian, Rene Rivkin.
Aussie, yeah. So back then he had the Rene Rivkin newsletter, and I would see the ads late at night. I'd see them in investment magazines, and I'm like 22, 23, young. I had nothing to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Time on my hands, but studying marketing and copywriting. And I'm seeing shitty creative, shitty work. I'm like, I'm just going to jot down some ideas just for my own edification, right?
Yeah. From this guy, from Rene, from his newsletter.
Just looking at the website, looking at the TV commercials, just if he hypothesizing, if he was my client, how would I advise him?
Yeah.
Games, no serious adventure here, right? Yeah. So I just start writing ideas on paper, and before I know it, I had a couple of pages of like, holy shit, man, there's a whole bunch of ideas here. So time on my hands, right? Living at home.
Yeah.
What the fuck am I gonna do? Why don't I just type up some ideas and maybe send it to him?
Yeah.
Turned into 16 pages of typed up ideas. I'm like, well, fuck, I might as well lay this out as a report. Turned out to be like a 16-page booklet, a report. Sent it to him in the mail, like fucking waiting, no response. I'm like, you know what?
Is this before email? I don't know.
Well, email probably would have been like,
so
initial inception.
This
was mail.
Oh, yeah,
totally. Mail, yeah. Like no response. I'm like, well, fuck, I got more ideas, and fuck it, I've invested all this time so far.
Yeah.
How about I come up with more ideas? So I produce a second 16-page report, right? 32 pages now. I've got time on my hands. I'm not anything special here. I've just got nothing better to do.
Yeah. Which is, hey, like a lot of people have right now.
Right? I send it off. I'm like, fucking no response. So I start to do a third report because now I've got the shits because I'm committed. And then I get a call from his assistant, Chris. Chris Calesi is his name at the time. He said, look, stop sending your shit through. He's got him. He'll talk to you. Right? I'm like, oh, fuck me.
Wow.
Right?
After the third one.
As I was working on the third. I was just going to keep sending these things, right? I was just like, fuck this. I don't know what I was going to say. So long story short, I get a meeting with him, and his office at the time was in Double Bay. As you come down New South Head Road, you see on the corner there. Walk into his office, and again, I'm 22, 23, man. I got no fucking idea. I can barely tie my shoelaces. I sit down and he goes, all right, you got my attention. Now what? You got like a minute, basically said, talk. I'm like, holy fuck, I am not as prepared as I should have been. And I have no idea. Dude. I have no idea. Yeah, he's one of those dudes get to the point, right? Yeah. I don't have no idea what I said. I have no idea. I can't remember it. It'll just blur. And he goes, stop speaking. Calls his marketing people in, his CEO, his son. The people, by the way, are the reason why I'm there because they're doing a sucking job. So problems start from the get-go. So I'm like sharing ideas. You can see like this squirming and unhappy. I'm like, oh, this is not going to work out well. Did not work out well at all, at all. Like he basically said to the team, work with this guy. From that moment forth, I got no love from anybody. It was just brutal, brutal, brutal. So my lesson though was always go to the top and keep the top on the radar. Mm-hmm. Don't let the top stay out of the loop. The loop, yeah.
How do you not piss people off by emailing them too much?
Look, I mean,
what's the difference between, a good email and a shit one?
Yeah. So you'll always piss people off no matter what you do.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
I've learned that.
So you're always going to piss people off.
Yeah.
Even people that were about to spend money with you for no reason because it's just the way the world works, right? But how to do great content, this is what I say all the time. You want to be saying things that nobody else is saying, right? So you want to get novelty and surprise and so forth. And it has to be something so relevant to your audience that you want to be sending content so on the button that you're literally reading their minds. So if you could do mind reading content that has novelty and surprise, what you get is spurts of dopamine released in your audience. Mm-hmm. They get literally addicted to your content. Now this is work. I'm not saying this is easy, but this is what's required to do great content.
By novelty and surprise, do you mean you're teaching them something?
Could do.
Because I think I heard in a TED talk or something like that. I don't watch TED anymore, but I used to. And I heard in a TED talk that when you learn something, your brain releases dopamine. And so what do you mean by novelty and surprise then? If it could mean knowledge, what else could it mean?
Look, my main copywriting mentor taught me surprise is an emotion.
And who's he?
Paris Lampropoulos.
He's like the god of all copywriters.
He's the dude.
Yeah.
He taught me surprise is an emotion. And so novelty and surprise, if you can engineer that through how-to information, teaching something very specific and epiphanous for people, that can release dopamine. Telling a great story, that's the other one. Hey, we tell stories all the time. If you can be a master storyteller, you can always garner people's attention. So great content equals great story. So we're talking 2003, Warren Buffett. I'm a huge fan of all things Warren Buffett. And I think I had time on my hands or so. I don't even know what the heck I was doing. What, 2003, how old was I? How old am I?
40.
Oh, I'm well into my career. What the fuck am I doing writing to Warren Buffett? Anyway, so I'm well into my career, moving along now. And I got the idea to send him a letter. But because it's Warren Buffett, I can only imagine the demands on his time. So I've thought through, how do I get through to this guy, right? And what do I know about him? He loves money, right? So certainly that's one thing we all know. But then I thought, you know what? He loves money, but how do I really cut through? So there's a thing that copywriters do in my sort of my group of people. If we're sending a letter in the mail, we want to get attention from people. One of the things we'll do is we'll attach something attention getting at the top of a letter. It could be, in Warren Buffett's case, it was $10. Okay, but other things I've attached are aspirin.
He loves money, so I sent him some money.
But I didn't send him $10 US.
Yeah.
I purposely sent him a $10 Aussie note because back then we just changed our note from paper to plastic or so.
So it's cool.
So the $10 note, it's colourful, new, novelty and so forth. And I knew he hadn't been to Australia. I think he hasn't even been since. So I thought, you know what? I can imagine the assistant opening up this thing, saying $10 Aussie, colourful blue looking thing. Let's pass this on to the man, which is exactly what happened. Passed it on to him and he was so like, fuck, this is just beautiful. He replied with a letter, like his own stationery, and invited me to be his guest at Berkshire's AGM.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the big summit thing they do.
The once a year thing. Yeah. Now, I forgot to mention, there was I had a look in, I had an angle actually, I forgot now. An ex-girlfriend of mine who was living in the UK knew that I was a psycho Buffett fan. Yeah. She called me and said, you wouldn't believe who I met last night in a London bar, right? Who? Warren Buffett. What? Yeah. I met Warren Buffett. It wasn't Warren Buffett. He had never been to London. It's an old man trying to pick up my ex-girlfriend. Right? That's what it turned out. What a genius the guy's got.
Yeah, I'm Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
Because really, who knows what Warren Buffett looks like? You know, a young girl.
A beautiful young blonde 21-year-old. Like fucking sicko.
Man, that guy's a genius.
Yeah. So in the letter, I actually said, a girlfriend of mine saw you in the London bar just recently. So he had a bit of a chuckle as well, and then replied in the PS and said, look, I haven't been to London. It was a lookalike, but you're invited to the AGM. Just make sure you bring Luana, my ex-girlfriend.